Hey everybody, how's it going? Marcos Villegas for Fight Up TV, being brought to you by stagefront.vip, being joined with Bob Santos, the trainer of Hector Garcia. You guys are scheduled to face Gervonta Davis this weekend on Showtime pay-per-view. First thing first, Bob, how is Hector coming into the fight in terms of his mental game and his focus given the events that happened last week with Gervonta?
Well, I mean, he's focused. He knows what the task at hand is, so he didn't let that rattle him. He stayed just positive and that everything would work out, and thank God that it did. And so we're prepared for this fight.
You know, when you look about like what happened last week, was there a concern on your end that there was going to be no fight and this would not happen and the fight would get canceled?
You know, there's always a concern, obviously, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a big believer man has plans. God's a master planner. So I felt confident everything would work itself out, and it did. So, but there was concern. To say there wasn't, you know, would be an understatement to have a fight of this magnitude. And you're thinking, oh, my God, we just put all this time in. It may be taken away from us. But thank God everything worked out, and we're ready to go.
How did he react to everything that happened? And you know, was there a concern on his end as well? Like, man, I put in all this preparation, all this training, and now I might not get this chance to fight Gervonta.
You know, I never seen that. I never seen any indication of him. And to give you a little backstory on Hector and his mindset and the type of person that he is, you know, this tells me a lot. You know, I obviously have Mario Barrios that trains with me and is in camp, and he fought Tank. And, you know, usually you'd have other fighters, and I know they'd go up to him, hey, man, how was his punching power? How was this? How did you see? I've never seen Hector ever do that. So I think he's confident within his own self, and he's always positive. So if there was a concern, I never seen any indication of it. He went about his business as he usually does day to day, and he was just focused on the task at hand. And so that gives you a little background into his personality and what type of person he is.
So nothing changed in terms of the training, the preparation. It was everything as normal, everything as goes.
Yeah, no, we changed nothing. Everything stayed the same. We went about our business no different than we did for the Gutierrez fight, and so nothing changed. Everything stayed the exact same.
You mentioned that there was concern on your end. I know a lot of people online, when the news first came out, they felt that the fight shouldn't even go ahead, that it should be maybe postponed. They brought up the Rolly situation. And hey, look, with the Rolly situation, he withdrew himself from the fight, and there was no fight. Do you feel that the fight should still go on, or do you feel that, given the new information that came out, that we're okay and that it's happening because those allegations were incorrect, and the baby mama made a statement where she said that, hey, you know, we had a misunderstanding?
Well, first of all, I was concerned for him because, you know, I've been at this level. You know, thank God, you know, I've been with Robert Guerrero in the Mayweather fights. I've been with Lara in the Canelo fights. I've been, you know, way back when with Joel Casamore in the Corrales fight. So, you know, I've been at that level, and my life is pretty secure and set, thank God, you know, for everything that I've been able to accomplish in boxing as a manager, trainer, and so forth. But for him, I was concerned because obviously this is life-changing for him and his family and for his country, right? This is probably one of the first major pay-per-views that anybody in his country's ever been a part of. So I was concerned for him not getting this opportunity. As a trainer, obviously, you know, I have Lara's career, or Guerrero's career, or, you know, different guys that I've worked with in different camps. So from that perspective, but getting back to, you know, the thing with Gervonta, I'm a huge believer in, you know, innocent until proven guilty. Let's let the facts come out. Let's let everything come out, not rush to conclusion, not, you know, convict people through Twitter and things of that nature, and let the process play itself out. And as time went on, you know, obviously, you know, the judge set the bail at what he set it at and what he thought the circumstances were. And at that point, when I seen what he set the bail, I felt pretty confident that, hey, look, this fight's going to go through. Obviously, it's serious. They brought him in. They're looking at it. But it wasn't to the degree of like $1 million bail or, you know, a videotape of him doing something, you know, so terrible in that area. And then you let everything play itself out.
Given with everything that happened, do you think the state of mind that Tank's in, like, do you think he's focused, like really focused to go into this fight? He wrote a tweet like last week that said like low key, I don't want to fight or I don't want to go through with the fight. And I found that kind of like odd, like, wow, you're like a week away and you're saying like, I don't really want to fight.
Well, my take on it is that he's come from a tough background. I've come from a tough background in San Jose, and kids like him, kids like myself, Hector. When you come out of those backgrounds where there can be problems at home, and things of that nature, I think a lot of times we can function in chaos, right? So some people, they function better in chaos than not. And you've dealt with all those kind of adversities. That's just a part of life. So to me, my take is I don't know him personally. I don't know his exact upbringing, but I know he was raised in Baltimore, just like I know Hector was raised in the Dominican Republic. So it's not easy growing up in those areas. You're going to have to go through a lot of adversities. So I don't think this is anything new for him. Just because it got in the public's eye and now people are saying, oh, Tank's distracted. I'm almost positive that he's dealt with a lot of different things of this nature. And guess what? He's 27-0 with 25 knockouts. So I don't take much from it.
Because a lot of people have said online, like, hey, like, maybe these conditions are like the perfect conditions for an upset here, because it seems like he's not focused. He has all this stuff going on. You have a guy that's focused, that is confident in his ability, that has all the experience in the world, and hasn't had any of those things going on.
Yeah, that being said, I don't look at it that way. At the end of the day, whoever wants it more, whoever's the best fighter, is going to be the one that's going to come out on top. Because, again, with Robert Guerrero, we were in fights where he won world titles and he had a broken hand. He lost world titles where we had a broken hand. So, when we win the world title, we say, hey, we had a broken hand. When we lose the world title, we had a broken. There's always going to be some kind of adversities in a fight and things that you have to go through. At the end of the day, who wants it the most and who's going to be able to implement their style is going to win the fight. And I think all the rest of this stuff is just, everybody has an opinion.
The Ryan Garcia clip that we did got a lot of traffic, but I think it struck a chord because a lot of people agreed with what you said. A lot of people would say, hey, they question, hey, does he really deserve this fight with Gervonta more so than Hector? Just overall, like your reaction to that, because I was honestly surprised that the clip, how viral it went on Twitter.
Well, facts are stubborn things, right? Facts are stubborn things. So when we look at it from this perspective, one of five things here. We got five things going on here. We got one guy who's an Olympian, and one guy who wasn't. Yeah. We got one guy who won a title eliminator, one guy who didn't. We got one guy who's a world champion, one guy's never done it. We got one guy who won, it was in the upset of the year. Upset of the year. And we have another guy that was nominated for Fighter of the Year by virtually everybody. The other guy's never done none of the five. None of the five, right? No, and I said, and I'll say it before, maybe you're the next De La Hoya. I don't know. I wish you the best. I think you're a tremendous talent. I think he's got one of the great trainers in the sport, and Joe Goosen. I have the utmost respect for Joe Goosen. But, again, things are earned in the ring. He's shown tremendous ability. He's shown a tremendous amount of talent. But again, of the five, were you an Olympian? No, you weren't. Have you won a title? No, you haven't. Were you a world champ? No, you haven't. Have you ever been in the upset of the year? No, you haven't. Have you been nominated for Fighter of the Year? No, you haven't. These are things that have to be earned. And up until this point, he hasn't earned it. So that's why, to me, Hector Garcia did everything in the ring to deserve this fight. Now, that said, and then he comes out and he says, oh, I hope that Hector gets knocked out and this and that, and all these different types of things. At the end of the day, that's great. Focus on your career. Focus on the things that you got to do. But at the end of the day, if you really want to be considered great, talking's great. That's great. And that's fantastic. And I'm glad he's a part of the sport. I really am, because he's good for the sport. You know, it brings attention to the sport. And I know he had a lot of amateur fights. And any guy that climbs into the ring, I take nothing for him. I have the utmost respect. That goes for anybody. But if you want to be something in this sport, you want to be a world champion, you got to earn it. It's not going to be given to you. Not through talking, not through Instagram. It's still got to be earned. Hector Luis Garcia has done that. To this point, you have not. That's just the truth.
Curious, you being a trainer, you knowing the sport like you do, what happens in that fight? I know obviously you guys feel you're going to win this weekend, but just say, you know, down the road, like they do eventually meet Gervonta and Ryan, what happens?
Well, that said, you know, Gervonta still got to beat Hector Luis Garcia January 7th. And that ain't going to be no easy hoeing. That's no give me. Easier said than done. People think he's just going to beat Hector. So we're planning on beating Gervonta. And if he wants the rematch, we can do that. Or if Ryan Garcia, if you want to elevate your game and fight for the title and become a true world champion, then you could fight Hector Luis Garcia. And we'll be more than willing to make that happen, make your dreams come true.
You think that we would ever see that?
Well, I mean, if we go out there and take care of business January 7th, why not? Right? You know, why not? But we'll see if he'll be willing and able to meet the challenge.
You said you wanted to touch on the judges in this fight. It's the first I've heard of this from you. Well, what's up with the judges? What's going on?
No, just you know, we have confidence that they're going to do, you know, the right thing in this fight, obviously, because a lot of people are talking back and forth, you know, with the Ryan Garcia fight, and it's such a big fight, pressure on them, you know, because people want to see that fight. But like I've said, and I say again, I have confidence that they're going to do the right thing. And at the end of the day, if you don't look at the names of the fight, you just look at X versus Y, and they stay in that realm, I have confidence that the right outcome and will come out into play in this fight. But you know, so just want to stay focused on that. A lot of people are asking me about that. People keep telling me, hey, what do you think about the judging? You know, because of the Garcia fight, are they gonna, you know, so on and so forth. But everybody's watching, obviously. They're professionals, we're professionals. X versus Y. You keep it like that in that realm, and the right outcome should be out there for the fans.
You've been in boxing a long time. Is that a real thing? Like, do you feel these judges are influenced when there's a big fight on the horizon?
Well, I think we're all human beings, right? So everybody can be influenced to one degree or another. But I think when you're an ultimate professional, what you got to do is you go in with the mindset. It's the same thing with a fighter. If a fighter goes into the fight and he says, oh, man, I'm fighting Mike Tyson in his prime, how many fighters were defeated before they went into the ring? Because there's a psychological aspect. But if you can go in there and say, hey, you know what? He's a man just like me. Like I said, if you keep things in the realm of X versus Y, then it's just based on what you're seeing. And that's where professionalism comes in. Same thing with a fighter. If the fighter comes in and he says, oh, I'm fighting Mike Tyson, you know, that can psychologically play on him. If he comes in and he says, well, Mike just threw a jab, I'm going to slip it, I got to focus on what I got to do, and that's what professionalism is, right? So for the fighters, for referees, for the judges, it's the same thing. It's the same principle, and professionalism should always rise to the top.
Do you feel if you guys go 12 rounds, is that a concern that you guys won't get a fair shake because of what we're talking about right now?
You know, I feel that the judges are going to do the right things in this fight, right? We're on the grand stage. This is a sport we love and we care about. And at the end of the day, it's not about, you know, picking and who wins, who loses, and so forth. It's do the right thing. They're professionals. We're professionals. And they got the opportunity to judge this fight. It's a great opportunity for them to be a part of this great sport. And at the end of the day, you always want to do the right thing, because boxing is much bigger than Mike Tyson. It's much bigger than Muhammad Ali. It's much bigger than Rocky Marciano. All these people that I've named, boxing has given the vehicle for all of us to change our lives. And so when everybody keeps that in mind, if you keep that in mind, you're always going to do the right thing.
So yeah, people, you hear it from fans, just everywhere, even casual fans. Boxing's a rigged sport. It's rigged. it's rigged, like the fights are not fair when there's these big fights in place. And I always, just me as a person, always wonder like if there's even a grain of truth, like because I know it would be very, very hard for someone to do that. It would have to be between whatever nefarious party and the judge, or the ref. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious. Like, do you ever buy into those like, I don't want to call them crazy theories because boxing was at one point very, very rigged, back in the 50s. But do you ever, give those claims a second thought?
Well, I mean, in any walk of life, whether it's a doctor, whether it's an accountant, whether it's a politician, whether it's an attorney, you have good people and you have bad people, right? If you're gonna, if you judge people on what they do, you judge a tree by the fruit it bears. You judge them on what they do, and that being said, anytime you have people involved, there's opportunity for somebody to do something nefarious, like in the NBA or so forth like that. But that's not a reflection as a whole, because then you could say that about the car industry. You could say that about anything because people are involved. So you can have good people and bad people. But for the most part, boxing is a tremendous sport. It's a great sport. And even when people are saying, oh, it's the judging's rigged or this and that, one punch can change anything in a fight, right? For a knockout, and that's the great beauty of boxing. And the beauty of boxing is, you could lose every round, and with 10 seconds to go, one punch, you put somebody out. In professional football, you're up 48 punches, and there's 10 seconds to go, the game's over. Same thing in basketball, not in boxing. So boxing is the one sport that no matter what, at any time, it can be turned on a dime with one punch. But that being said, for the most part, there's a lot of great people in boxing. It's a tremendous sport. And there's a lot of great professionals in there, but nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect.
In your mind, how do you see the fight going on, and what do you think is going to surprise Gervonta?
Well, what's going to surprise him is that you want to fight from distance, we can fight from distance. You want to fight in the middle range, we can fight in the middle range. If you want to go toe-to-toe, we can go toe-to-toe. So he's going to find out that this guy can fight on all three levels. Gervonta's been able to, he's been able to turn fights around with one big punch or outthink. He's very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's much more intellectual fighter than people think. He's very underestimated. He's a very, very intellectual fighter. He knows what he's doing in there. He's a very, very smart fighter. I give him a tremendous amount of respect and credit for that. But that being said, he's going to find out that he's going in against a chess player just as well as he is. So we can play chess, we can play checkers, we can do it any which way you want to do it, because like I said, Hector's bringing a plethora of experience. This is a blue chipper. So everything he can do, Hector can do. So when he can make adjustments, we can make adjustments. So he's gonna find that out. And I think in the past, when he fought, say, a Gamboa, I think Gamboa was just a little too long in the tooth to keep up with him. And that being said, Gamboa is right-handed. Barrios is a strong physical kid, but he's not left-handed. So again, you're talking about a left-hander, an Olympian, that kind of pedigree. It's going to bring a tremendous amount of problems to him.
At the end of the day, Bob, when you look at this fight and you look at like what it means to Hector and spending the time that you spent with Hector, like what does this mean to him and just the emotions that he has about this opportunity that he has in front of him on Saturday?
Well, you got to remember, this is a guy, that although he's an Olympian, was overlooked by a lot of the top promoters, wasn't given an opportunity. He's had to fight and claw for everything that's come his way. It wasn't easy to become an Olympian, from the Dominican Republic. It wasn't easy to get into the position that he's in right now. So it would mean a tremendous amount to him to win, and people got to understand something. I think people kind of overlook the fact that, with the Dominican fighters and a lot of the fighters that I work with, they're coming into foreign countries. Everybody thinks Spence or these guys. You guys are fighting fights in your backyard, and people don't look at what these guys are having to do. It's like going into Mexico to go fight for a world title or a different place. When you go into a foreign country, it's not that easy. And so you have to fight for everything that comes your way. But that being said, He's positive, and he's not only he's carrying his country on his back in a sense, though, too. So it's not just him. This is for his country. And he knows that this can change the trajectory of Dominican boxing, right? So when we all got together, involved, me, Hector, and Puello, and Carlos Adames, you know, when we got together, you think about this, we all got together and said, hey, man, let's put Dominican boxing on the map. And at that point, you had never had more Dominican world champions than Cuba. You had never had more Dominican world champions than Puerto Rico. Now there's more Dominican world champions than Puerto Rico and Cuba combined. And I think for that matter, we can throw in the Philippines too. Shout out to Manny Pacquiao, right? So they're starting to put it on the map, and they're taking this serious now. Like, hey, you know what? We're not just a baseball country. Got a lot of talented people here, and I think it's great for boxing, because anytime you can bring in other cultures and other countries and get them passionate about the sport that I know that you love and I love, and all you people out there obviously watching this love and care about, and that's what it's all about, the fans.